I'm standing in front of the Huntington Beach Police Department. Today, we're actually going to jail, but it's a good thing because it involves a lot of hidden history. I'm Chris Epting. I'm an author and storyteller, and I love the history of Huntington Beach, especially the hidden history. For the past 2 seasons, we've helped uncover many little-known stories that help illuminate the past. Now, join us as we dig deeper and discover even more secrets. Welcome to Hidden Huntington Beach, Season 3. Captain Timothy Martin has admirably served on the Huntington Beach Police Force since the 1980s. But Tim is not just a dedicated civil servant, he's also a local history buff, and he recently took time out of his busy schedule to show me a number of historic artifacts that are kept in the bowels of the police department building. In addition to discovering some amazing hidden history, I aim to gain an even deeper appreciation of the department's contribution to the community through the stories and tales of the officers who have served. So Tim, it's great that you've got all these historic photos on the wall to honor the department. How did it happen?
So these were all put together by one of our officers a few years back, and what I like about it is it's the faces of our history. It's the officers that worked mostly during the 70s and 80s, but our officers, our modern officers, can come by here, look at the history of the department every day before they start their shift.
Well done.
Yeah.
So Tim, it's sort of like a little mini museum down here underneath
Absolutely.
the police station.
Yes.
This is an incredible artifact. What do you know about this?
So this is the this would be a jail door from, I guess it would be our third jail.
Over at the City Hall that preceded this police station.
Correct.
Till about 1974.
When they demolished that station, the door was actually sent to a wrecking yard as scrap metal. Old LAPD officer at the time found it, knew what it was, and rescued it from the scrap yard. And then he donated it to another one of our officers, who then donated it to us.
It's incredible. This is like an old school jail door.
Yep.
You've got lots of artifacts down here. There's a call box from the substation that's downtown, but over here is something truly moving. Why don't you talk about the tribute that's here to a fallen officer?
So this right here is our an honor to Officer Nicholas Ekovich, who responded to the Green Tree Salon and engaged in a violent gun battle with a robbery suspect.
1999.
1999. He had taken several people in the store hostage, put them in the back room. One of the employees was able to activate the alarm, which triggered Nick to respond. When he got there, almost immediately he encountered the suspect. They engaged in a very close range gun battle with each other. Nick was shot 5 times.
The red arrows actually mark the bullet holes where he was struck, right?
Yeah, so 2 of the shots hit him, probably the first 2 rounds where the suspect hit him right there in the chest. The vest saved him. They didn't penetrate the vest, but he was shot 3 times in the arm, and the arm is what caused the most damage to him.
And you were actually right nearby when you heard this call. You said you were in this hallway when you first heard this as it happened in real time.
I was actually, at the time, assigned to the downtown footbeat. I was in the station getting ready to start my shift.
In this hallway?
Yeah, pretty much, when the call went out. We have the radio broadcast right there for anybody that wants to listen to it. And I heard the broadcast live and responded from here up to Bouchard and Hamilton.
Charlie 10-4, officer down 998.
Tim, what does a shrine like this represent? When officers see this on a daily basis, what do you think it means to them? What does it do to them? Why does it matter?
Well, it was strategically placed in this spot. Behind me is our locker room, our briefing room, our report writing room. This is the central hub of the police station. So any officer that comes out that starts their shift, this is the first thing they see. It reminds them that the dangers are out there. This officer sacrificed ultimately a lot of his health, and eventually he passed away years down the road, but it basically symbolizes the dangers and the stresses that are out there in the field every day. So you got to stay on edge, you got to stay vigilant, and you got to go out there and make sure that you're staying safe.
Incredible. Listen, Tim, before we go up to your office, there's a couple of things that you found back in the jail cell area that are really interesting, very hidden, and you're kind enough to show us those right now,
absolutely.
right? Why don't you lead the way in?
All right.
Take us to the treasure. All right, so Tim, You had mentioned these to me, but I had no idea what they were going to look like. Tell me when you found these, what you think they are, so people know. There are two framed kind of banner signage things. They're sturdy, hand painted, but we don't know. You don't know when they're from exactly.
No, they've been in here for years. They've been. I remember them as at least 10 years ago. They've been here, so I would imagine they've been in here for several years. And how they got here, it's a mystery. I'd love to know at some point. I don't know if it was an officer that was a heads-up employee that saw them out that they're going to be thrown away and brought them here to protect them, or if we recovered them from being stolen. So I'm going to try to figure all that out.
Well, interestingly, so we've got on top there, you can see the N Cafe with a plane that says John Gustafson on it. That graphic was used in 1980, I know, on a t-shirt design, this exact one. So maybe that gets us a little bit of dating, possibly. Yeah. There's a name of a signage company here. You've already tried to...
Bethel, yeah. I have not been able to see that, research that or find any company in Huntington Beach with that name. So
okay, so
could have been outside the area.
Yeah, so we'll try and maybe track that down. But these are magnificent pieces. Obviously a beach setting, 1935 view of Main Street, and then of course on top, alternate views of the N Cafe with a plane there. So these are, I'm talking about hidden history. Tell everybody where we are right now.
So this is the Huntington Beach City Jail storage room. Essentially, when the jail was originally built in the 70s, the intent was always to expand the jail, and that expansion never happened. So this has become kind of our storage room for extra equipment. Signs, large signs. Yeah, these are very, very large. My guess is they were too large to fit in our property room, so they put them back here as storage.
Now, given that you found these here, do you think there might be anything else hiding in here someplace that could be significant?
I have not found anything.
But you'll let us know if you find something.
All absolutely.
Right. Why don't we, okay, now we're gonna head up to your office like we were talking about earlier. You've laid some things out there, some real pieces of hidden history that you're gonna show us, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Right, let's go.
All right.
All right, Tim, we're here in your office. You're kind of like an unofficial historian for the department, it seems. I mean, you've got some great artifacts, I mean, countless wonderful photos and things we're going to talk about. You like history, don't you? And you like the history of the department as well.
And there's been a lot of work done by other members of our department.
I was going to say, over the years, you know, there are these, this book I love, by the way. I got this a number of years ago, and Lieutenant Michael Biggs put this together, researched and written by, and this was, for me, a great starting point in learning about the department. I'm sure for you too, this helped a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well. That's the first 80 years of the history of our department. So past that, we're now going on 110 years, over 110 years of history of the police department.
Now, my hands are on this book now. Number one, what is this book in front of me?
So this right here is the first original jail log for the city's history. So up until 1917, there was marshals, and anybody that was arrested, it was just kind of throwing them in jail to sober up or
1917.
Yeah, so the earliest log that we have for arrest goes back to 1917.
What's the first arrest?
So the first arrest is Pimentel is the G. Pimentel. So there wasn't any first name on it. April 9th, 1917.
And what was the charge?
Sought to disturb the peace, and then felony assault.
Wow.
And it goes on to say that that he was basically released to the custody of the county.
All written by hand,
served
everything
10 days.
Obviously.
Yeah. So anyway, it goes into the history of every arrest ever made in the city of Huntington Beach, dating back to 1917. And then I marked one here, which is kind of interesting. That also September 8th of 1921, exactly 100 years ago today, is this entry right here.
Arresting officer was the famous Jack Tinsley, who was the chief for a couple of different stints way back when.
Defrauding the innkeeper. So defrauding the innkeeper is basically dine and dashing, getting a meal and not paying for it.
Just those words, defrauding the innkeeper, takes us back 100 years.
So it goes in. We have several of these books that go back until modern day record keeping.
This is incredible. So this would have been down in the jail, I guess, when they would bring people in.
What's really interesting about these books is you look at them and you kind of get a screenshot of what the makeup of Huntington Beach was back in 1917. New York, Ohio, Kansas, New York,
I was going to say,
Texas.
You're reading place of birth, and that's interesting. So already we've got a lot of transplants in Huntington Beach.
Yep.
And this, interestingly, there are hardly any from California that we see. We're looking at Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Pennsylvania, Mississippi. Then we get around the world, Germany, Greece, Russia. This is all before oil was even discovered here. So already immigrants are converging on Huntington Beach. The city is growing. I know the Methodist tent camps may have had something to do with that. But it's really fascinating looking at just where people came from to come to Huntington Beach. How many of these logbooks are there?
That I know of, there's 4 of them.
And they go up till about how long, do you think?
I'd have to look at them, but I think they're into the 50s.
And after that, things become probably less handwritten, maybe typed a little bit,
Correct.
a little more modern as technology changes. But this is like a museum piece. I mean, this really is an incredible snapshot of the early years of the city and what people were doing, what they were doing wrong, obviously. And we start seeing a lot of drunk charges, even back then.
Yeah.
A lot of disturbing the peace.
And what was interesting is up until about the 30s, there are no reports. So the logbook served, if you look at some of these entries, you're going to see the explanation of what the status was.
Oh, wow.
So there was no necessarily, we have crime reports going back to the 30s, which I have some examples of. But a lot of times this logbook was the only written history of the arrests that were made.
Well, this is incredible. You've also got a folder here that's got, I saw it earlier, it's got a lot of old paper sticking out of it. What do we have in here?
So these are the various reports. Most of them are from the 30s, 40s, dating back, this one's 1938, 1935. 1937, auto theft, crime reports, different type of reports that generally were all typed with a typewriter.
Yeah, here we've got a report from 416 Ocean Avenue, today PCH, at a cafe, the Oliver Cafe, and 5:10 a.m. received call from Charlotte Pritchard, waitress at Cecil's Cafe, reporting they had just been held up by 2 men. So serious. I mean, this is...
Yeah.
And it goes on, very detailed descriptions and everything. And so these were the official records after these books. This would be the more
correct. So
detailed descriptions.
If there was an arrest made, you would be able to take this report and match it up with the entry in the book.
We get a real detailed story of what happened. Very well written, very detailed, vivid stories of what the crime was, who did it, what the mood was, what the reactions were. Really something. Actually very good writing. These would make, I think, great display pieces to show people just what it was like being a police officer back, almost 100 years ago. Now, I know that this book was put together by an officer, I think back in the 1980s, Lieutenant Michael Biggs put together this nice collection of historic photographs and stories about the department. You've got a lot of these photos in these binders, but a lot more as well, photos that have never been seen by the general public. Let's look at some photos that you've got here, because again, rare images that take us back to more than 100 years ago. It looks like a still, probably Prohibition era.
Yep, Prohibition definitely changed the face of the city of Huntington Beach. You had a huge rise in crime, addition to the police department. You went from 1 officer to 11 patrolling the streets, and this is some original photos and some copied photos, but for the most part, a lot of these originals, the old jail, the old police station building on Main Street. A lot of great photos of our employees and names of our employees.
We see actually a lot of images of this gentleman who is Jack Tinsley. You've got his personal notebook here. And Jack Tinsley, of course, served a number of times as a police chief, starting back in the 19-teens, and was very influential and really kind of helped develop the force into what it is today. And you've got great photos of him here. You've got his personal logbook. I know his badge is on display downstairs. So there really is kind of a nice tribute to him that we see here. Who are some of the other chiefs that, if you had to pick 1 or 2 more that come to mind as being really well known, very influential? Who's at the top of that list for you?
Oh, probably Chief Robitel for sure. He's by far the most influential. Took this department from, put it on the map as one of the most modern police departments at the time.
There's a really nice tribute that you have created for him downstairs, the department has. great, list of his accomplishments and photos and things. Have you met him? Did you know him?
Yeah, in fact, he still shows up at events for the police department. He's still around, still alive and kicking, and he was actually just recently very much involved in the department when we solved one of our cold cases, because he was actually heavily involved in that case at the time.
I know that case is important. There's a photo, right, that is very well known that gets us to that case, right?
Yeah, there's a classic photo. It's in fact, we're making it into a mural in our detective bureau, and it's a photo of a crime scene of a murder of a young woman that was murdered in 1968, and he was the head of detectives at the time, and he was out there at the scene during the investigation, and that picture symbolizes a lot for our department, symbolizes generations and generations of hard work that was done by our detectives to solve that case almost 50 years later. That case was solved last year, and Chief Robitel was involved in talking with the family and kind of putting that case with some closure. So
it's a great story. Some more photos here, Tim. What else do you have that reveal some hidden history for us? I mean, obviously great images of the department.
Yeah, some images of the history of building of our city hall, of our station. We had.
What about this?
So this picture is of the story behind this is one of our officers was chasing some kids, and in the 40s, and ran off the road onto the beach, ended up getting the kids. But this particular car that's in the picture right now is a car that we have restored. All the work was done in-house by our mechanic staff at our shop.
Car?
Not that actual car, but they purchased the exact year, make, and model, and restored it to look like one of our police cars. It's used in our parades, and but it's a great piece of history because this is the photo it was modeled off of. Several of our homicides were published in these old vintage murder mystery magazines that I've spent lots of time on eBay trying to find these exact issues, but can't find them. But they're out there. So yeah, these are the photos of the bunkers, the old military bunkers from
over
the 40s.
Over by the Balls Chica wetlands.
Balls Chica wetlands. And what's cool about this is I've never even seen these, and these are images of several different bunkers as they were being dug out and then eventually demolished.
So was the department involved, do you think, in that? Is that why the photos are here?
No, I just think that
they're helicopter shots, it looks like.
Our helicopter is over 70 years old, so our program. So back then, they used our
go out and
frequently we'd
shoot
use our helicopter to shoot photographs of different things. But
again, these are just, I've never seen these, never really seen any images that quite capture the scope of the bunkers. So these are, I love that these are here in your archive. In addition to these photos, if you reach down, there was something that hangs on your wall that you're very fond of that I think is very unique and certainly a piece of hidden Huntington Beach history. Tell the story of this.
Yeah, so growing up in Huntington Beach, going surfing and just being born and raised here, actually one of our, I didn't discover this. This report was found in a drawer by Sergeant Scott Marsh. He found this, and he's a surfer. This is a report that was created in 1970. I guess surfboard theft was a big deal back then because we had to create a report to document.
Kind of a template that when a board was stolen, you could check off all of that.
Yeah, because it goes into details about what type of fin it had, whether it was square back, round back, pintail. For an officer that's not familiar with surf nomenclature, you're able to go down and document what the board looked like. So pretty cool piece of history. He had it hanging in his office. I had to have one for mine too, and it's just kind of a cool part of the department.
Tim, first of all, thank you for walking us through all of the great history. You're starting downstairs, going back to the jail to see those incredible banners, and now the logbooks, the photos, the artifacts. We really appreciate your time. We also appreciate your work as a police officer and everybody else in this building for what you do every day, day in, day out, keeping the city safe. things people will never see. Just being here today with our crew, wandering around the bowels of the building, you see things where you really get a sense of what goes into being a police officer. There's a lot to it, a lot more to it than people will notice on a motorcycle or in a car. So thank you for all you
absolutely. I appreciate you doing this, highlighting the hard work the men and women do every day is what's important, and that's why we've opened our doors to you, because we know that this is only going to honor not just the ones that are currently out there working, but all the past officers that have been patrolling the city for
it's
a
an
number of
incredible
years.
story, and I have to tell you, the shrine you have downstairs to that one fallen officer, I know that sort of speaks to all of them. But the fact that it's located so centrally for officers to see every day really speaks to what you go through every day on the street. So I think that was very powerful, and thank you for sharing that with us. We're going to have another episode where you and I go out around the city, visit some crime scenes, some historic places, maybe go up in a helicopter to kind of check out some history from the sky. But as for today, Tim, I want to thank you very much for sharing all these great pieces. It really has been a wonderful experience. I want to thank you for joining us as well. If you want to see more Hidden History, check out our Facebook page, which is simply called Hidden Huntington Beach. But in the meantime, Captain, I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.